Grace Meets Us Where We Are by Gretchen Haley. There is nothing we need to bring with us to be welcome here. No right beliefs or proof of citizenship, no eternal optimism or clarity of conviction, no boundless courage or endless expertise.
You do not need to know what brought you here or how you will solve that problem you are turning over and over and over in your mind. Your bills do not need to be paid, and your checkbook can be a mess. Your children may have been up half the night. Your hearing aids may not be working, and your knees may be creaking.
We do not need to be already perfect or even halfway to belong in this circle where grace meets us where we are, but does not leave us as it found us.
Where love resides in each of us, yet is somehow more than all. Where life still pulses and rages and heals and transforms, creating us and this day anew once again.
Come, let us light our chalice and let us attend together to what matters. In other words, come, let us worship. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, Spirit, draw near. Spirit, Spirit, draw near. Spirit, Spirit, draw near. There are people here. All the dire warnings of snow, which I know people got at higher elevations. It's great to see you and great to be together. I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa. In the spirit of this particular hour and the mystery of this particular hour, I invite you to say hello in a moment to the people around you, whether you're in the room or on Zoom, reaching out to those you know as readily as you reach out to those who are new to you. So I invite us all to make sure that we're working together so everyone is greeted warmly and well. I invite you to say hello. Now would be a great time to turn off cell phones if you're here in the room. Well, even if you're at home, I suggest too. Usually I would pull mine out to demonstrate, but I left mine at home, so I am completely untethered. Welcome. Eileen Hale offers our land acknowledgement this morning. Eileen Hale, who's always online on Sundays, supporting the people who are on Zoom.
The black oak acorns on our altar remind us that we meet here on Nisenan land, that the history of this land and its peoples continue to shape this community, that we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people and to restore tribal sovereignty through federal recognition, and that our own deepest well-being is bound to the tribe's well-being. In this spirit, The tribe has asked us to add to our acknowledgement that they have a time-limited and thrilling opportunity to purchase a historic Nisenan village site, Ulicha, and have undertaken the large and inspiring task of raising a large amount of money in a short time. They have asked for our support. Know that even small donations make a huge difference, as the more donors, the more likely large funders will contribute. Look for ways to give on CHIRP's website, on UUCM's website, and throughout the building.
Thank you, Eileen. And with that, we send this light with our youngest folks who get to go to Kids Connection. We'll sing them on their way with this little light of mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Well, good morning. My name is Beth Karow, and I am serving as worship associate for this morning's service. Yay. I'm joined by the Reverend Kevin Tarsa with familiar guest musician Gabrielle Lawson and Eileen Hale as our Zoom host. Oh, yeah, take a minute. Eileen Hale and on Zoom. Plus we have fantastic teams of AV engineers, greeters, refreshment hosts, Kids Connection, volunteers, etc. So whether gathered in our building in Grass Valley, California, or online, it is our hope that all feel welcomed by warm hearts, open minds, and the hands of fellowship of the Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains. Appropriately, as we begin our new theme for the month, the gift of transformation, the month of March has entered like a lion, although not as fierce as we were expecting, but that's fine. It remains to be seen whether it will become more lamb-like in the weeks ahead. In one of the recent brainstorming sessions held after church on the fourth Sundays, where folks are invited to help in the early planning stages of Sunday services by offering ideas, images, thoughts about the upcoming theme, this time transformation, the image of a butterfly was immediately offered up. Of course it was. In its short journey from tiny egg to beautiful winged creature, a butterfly is a powerful symbol of transformation. Before it gets its gorgeous wings and with them the freedom of flight, it must survive not only the caterpillar stage, but the time of pupation, where it literally turns to goo inside of its tight chrysalis. Now there are some rich images to draw upon, no? Okay, so here goes. Whether you inched your way here or fluttered in, whether you are feeling bright and beautiful and expansive and clear, or dark, confused, constrained, and gooey. Now, you know what? I can't do this. I'm sorry, not this time. See, I have been trying to write this welcome for weeks. And for some reason, it's been just really challenging to find myself up to the task. So let me start over. The most famous caterpillar I know of is the one Alice found perched upon a mushroom and smoking a hookah when she found herself in Wonderland in the iconic book by Lewis Carroll. The caterpillar asked her repeatedly, "Who are you?" And Alice was hard-pressed to give a satisfactory answer, replying at one point rather shyly, "I hardly know, sir, just at present. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then." Oh, Alice, I can relate. Maybe many of us can. Perfectionist, procrastinator, holding it all together, and barely holding on. In good physical and mental health, or maybe not doing so well currently. Joyful or full of sorrow. Hopeful and worried, connected or lonely. Clear, murky, whole, broken, either or all of it. Like Alice, maybe we've changed many times since breakfast. All of this is to say, we are welcome here. Whoever we are, however we have come to be here, however we identify ourselves, and who and how we love. Wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving, returning, and leaving again, lovers of transformation. We are here together now, and we are invited to bring our whole selves, whoever we happen to be. We all matter, and we all are welcome.
Thank you, Beth, for the struggle and the end result, both. I invite us to sing a song that was likely new to most or all of you. It's a beautiful text. It really speaks to this combination of what's going on in the natural world at this time of year, this move towards spring, and also who we are. So we put out the hymn books because this is new. That may help those who like to see music. It's number 1068. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to sing along. We'll get to hum the melody a time through as we go.
And my love blows away.
I know so often our concerns, our sorrows, our worries have that hope for rising green, right? In some new day. I invite you to take a moment to step out of the stocking up for Snowmageddon and worrying about ice this morning, to uncross your bodies maybe, and just notice. Take a moment just to breathe into where you are this morning, to listen for a moment inside to what's moving there, what's on your mind, what's in your heart, right in this moment. I invite us to enter this ritual together, this weekly ritual of taking a moment to honor together what we're carrying. For those who are on Zoom, it's a chance to put words to what you're carrying, to type into the chat, and so share with each other. If you're in the room, there's a chance to do this non-verbally, to come take a stone from the table and to put it in the bowl of water. All that you're carrying, placed in this larger bowl that holds you, including this morning, this room full of people, this room and the Zoom room full of people. Invite us to enter this time with thoughtfulness, if it is our practice, or a time of prayer, or a time of meditation or introspection. As the music moves, I invite us, anyone who wishes in the room, to come forward and place a stone. I'm moved every Sunday, whether I'm reading the chat or watching people's faces or looking at that bowl full of stones, at the shared volume and variety of it all. This morning, I would invite us to offer a prayer together. So I invite you to call out what your prayer is this morning, based on what's in your heart, what your hope is, what your desire is. I'll repeat it here. Who's in your mind and heart, and what is your hope? What is your prayer? Protection for the trans community. Prayer for finding peace.
The end of shelling in Gaza.
The end of shelling in Gaza. Harmony with the past. Healing.
Courage to face fear.
Courage to face fear.
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Housing for those
housing for those in need. Help us. Forgiving the driver that hit me. Heart healing. More gratitude. Lasting love. More compassion. Capacity for amazement. Integration. Connection. Insight. Full heart. Watching the earth turn green. Sustenance. Our political situation. Friendship. Connection with nature. The similar fullness, right? Our hopes, our prayers, our desires, similar fullness to the bowl of stones. In the name of all that each of us knows is holy, which for some of us is the divine or the spirit or a God of absolute love, which for some of us is the very best and highest in human nature, or the truth of the universe as it is, in the name of all that each of us knows as holy, may our prayers be answered, not the least because of the steps we take, because of the actions we take, because of the work of our own hands and hearts and voices. May it be so.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will turn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will I love UUCM. It is just a place where love reigns, but I think that all people are finding their potential, finding their grace, and finding their voice to express their warmth and support of this community. It's all about the love we feel for each other and the love we can bring to the world. How has it transformed me? I think that I have learned to be myself better in concert with this marvelous community. We are a team. We're a team making the world better.
Chuck, I love that you were ready to jump up and offer a testimonial. Wasn't planning on that, but hey, we're willing. Thank you.
Let me just add one more thought.
Oh, Chuck. Maxie by Mildred Kantrowitz, pictures by Emily A. McCauley, with whom I am experiencing a lovely bit of correspondence back and forth as I asked for permission to read and share with you a beloved book from my childhood, Maxie. To my mother, who was necessary to begin with. Maxie lived in 3 small rooms on the top floor of an old brownstone house on Orange Street. She had lived there for many years, and every day was the same for Maxie. Every morning, 7 days a week, every morning at exactly 7 o'clock, Maxie raised the shades on her 3 front windows. Every morning at exactly 7:10, Maxie's large orange cat jumped up onto the middle windowsill and sprawled there in the morning sun. At 7:20, if you were watching Maxie's back window, you could see her raise the shade to the very top. Then she uncovered a bird cage. On the perch inside the cage was a yellow canary. He was waiting for his water dish to be filled, and it always was, if you were still watching, at 7:22. At 8:15 every morning, Maxie's door opened with a tired squeak. Maxie's old leather slippers made slapping sounds as she walked down the 4 flights of uncarpeted stairs to the front door. Outside the front door were the bottles of milk in a container. Maxie always tried to hold the door open with her left foot while she stretched out to get her milk. But every morning it was just a little too far for her to reach. The door always banged shut and locked behind her. So at 8:20 every morning, Maxie rang the bell marked Superintendent. The superintendent, whose name was Arthur, would open the door for Maxie and let her in with her milk. Only Maxie and the man at the grocery store knew what she ate for breakfast, but everyone knew she drank tea. At 8:45 every morning, they could hear the whistling of her tea kettle. How Maxie loved that whistle. She loved it so much that she let it sing out for 1 full minute. Dogs howled, cats whined, and babies bawled, but everyone knew that when the whistle stopped, it would be 8:46. And it always was. The mailman knew more about Maxie than anyone else did. He knew that she had a sister in Chicago who sent her a Christmas card every year. He also knew when Maxie planted the flowers in her window boxes because every spring he delivered her seed catalog. Then, a few weeks later, he delivered packets of seeds. Every morning at 9 o'clock, Maxie walked down the stairs for the second time in her leather slippers. She went outside and put her small bag of garbage in the pail on the front stoop. Then she came back in and waited for the mailman. She walked slowly past him in the hall, watching him put mail in the slots for the other people who lived in the house. Then she climbed the 4 flights of stairs again, resting at each landing. When she got to the top, Maxie went into her apartment, and the door closed after her with the same tired squeak. One afternoon at 1:05, just as she did every afternoon at 1:05, Maxie moved the bird cage with the yellow bird in it to to the front windows. It was shady and cool there now. The large orange cat moved to the back window and sprawled there, soaking up the sun that matched the color of his fur. "You're perfectly happy just lying there day after day," Maxie said to the cat. "All you ever want to do is move from one windowsill to the other and watch the world go by. You don't need anyone, and no one really needs you. But you don't seem to care." Maxie turned away from the window. "I care," she said sadly. "I'm not a cat, but I might as well be." Maxie felt very tired, and she went to bed. That was Monday.
To be continued. So here's to explore yet another aspect of the way all of us learn to make our way through life and make our way through the world. This is the part of us, and some of us more than others, that most wants to feel significant, to feel that we matter. This is the part of us that is worried that we don't really matter, that we add no special value to the world, and that we have no real identity. And so this is the part of us that's driven to try to understand who we are, the part of us that tries to put together an identity made out of our feelings and the world inside of us. In Enneagram terms, this is point 4, the individualist, in some forms known as the artist, the romantic, the melancholic, the aesthete, the tragic victim, the special one, sensitive, withdrawn, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental, deeply anchored in and identified with feelings. Know anyone? People in whom this aspect, this fourness is strong, see themselves as fundamentally different from everyone else. Feel that no one really understands them, and so no one can really love them completely or adequately. This is the part of ourselves that feels both uniquely talented and special and wants to be seen for that, but also uniquely flawed and deficient, missing something, which we don't want people to see, which they might see if we draw attention to that special part of us. And so there's this push-pull. Uniquely gifted and uniquely wounded. What's a person to do? More than any other type, people in whom this fourness is strongest are acutely aware of and they're focused on their deficiencies. And here's often how that takes place. Now, you may be familiar with the process of projection, where we take something from inside of us and misunderstand it as coming from outside of us. When there's something in us that we don't want to see or can't see, whether it's good or bad, right? Something in us we don't see or can't see that will project onto somebody else, and we'll see it in them and understand it as coming from them, not us, right? It's a way of sort of protecting ourselves. So if, for example, we can't see our own arrogance or our own envy or our desire for attention or our bossiness or our compassion or our talent, for that matter, then we'll see that arrogance, that envy, desire, that bossiness, that look for attention in someone else. We'll see the compassion and the talent in someone else, whether it's there or not, when really it was in us. We project it onto somebody else. In other words, we'll see the speck of sawdust in someone else's eye, but not the wooden plank in our own eye, to reference a biblical passage. Okay, with 4s, this is not that. With 4ness, it's actually the inverse of that. Not projection, but introjection, where we take something from outside of us and misunderstand it as coming from inside of us, as if it's part of our identity. In a very common for type example, this could be, for example, when someone criticizes us, which in theory we could take or leave, right? Someone criticizes us, and we not only take in that particular criticism, but we're going to take in the whole critic as if it's inside of us, right? So we take on an inner critic. It started here, but we take it in as if it's us, this inner critic. We mistake something that's outside of us for something inside of us, the opposite of projection. Now, why in the heck would we do this? Because it partially relieves the pain by giving us the illusion of control. If we bring the critic inside, then it's under our management, right? It's a way to try to relieve that criticism, in part by just taking it on. As human beings, we're all prone to do this in our various ways and to various extents. To take what we experienced being done to us, especially early on, and then doing it to ourselves in some way, as a way of trying to claim some measure of control over it, so it won't hurt in the same way. The people in whom fourness is especially strong are the people most likely to embrace their sadness and their grief, right? To take it in. In fact, to see it as part of their identity. Think of the suffering artist as a stereotype that gets you in the ballpark. Enduring suffering with quiet and expressive strength. That's part of who they are, right? That sadness, that melancholy. They, and this part in each of us, often have a keen eye for beauty, intense creativity, a comfort with the darker emotions in oneself and others, an active imagination, powerful compassion with all that feeling, deep and expansive feelings, and a wonderful ability to experience and then to express deep truths about the human condition, because they're not afraid to go there. So let me crowdsource some other thoughts about fourness. Those of you who have been working with the Enneagram or are a four or know and love fours, what else would you say about fourness? What's helpful to know? Creative. I'm sorry? They put those that they love on a pedestal. Dramatic, right? It heightened the emotions. Dramatic. Sensitive and caring, right? Really attuned.
Intelligent.
Intelligent. Self-centered, self-focused maybe, right? Or kind of in that internal life, focused on that personal internal life. Fear of missing out, all that good stuff, feeling disconnected, right? And fear of missing out.
Creativity is comforting.
Creativity is comforting.
A good story creator.
A good story creator. Innovator. So where does that come from?
Social anxiety.
Social anxiety, right? So for all these aspects of ourselves, what we would say is nothing in our childhood makes us a certain way, but it does evidence kind of how we're wired in the world. So childhood experiences don't cause our personalities, but they do evidence those tendencies. Fours often felt disconnected and frustrated with all their parent figures or their primary caretakers, often fantasizing that they must have been switched at the hospital with a baby, switched with a baby who went to their real parents. Anybody? As young children, they didn't feel seen, didn't feel connected, did not have themselves mirrored back. And so they came to believe, as children are wont to do, that it must be them, it must be their own fault, and that something must be profoundly wrong with them, which sends people into a lifelong search for their self, right? If it wasn't reflected back, you have to go searching for it. and searching for the perfect partner, the one on the pedestal, for the friends who will see and appreciate them for who they are. As someone put it, on the most profound level, 4s are always looking for the mother and father they feel they did not have. Meanwhile, to survive, and so not to feel so much pain, the pain of not getting what we needed, the 4-ness creates a whole dynamic internal world, right? Where we can be seen by ourselves, if no one else. A world that's typically dismissed by our caregivers as whimsical or unreal or unimportant if it's acknowledged at all. What do you think the country is that's kind of named as stereotypically 4-ish? Artistic, a little melancholic, thinks of itself as special and wounded? There you go. France, the most obvious one. People say Japan too, in a much more aesthetic way, right? Much more aesthetic way. Animal, what do you think the animal that's described as 4-ish is? The cat, very much the cat, or the basset hound for the dog lovers. Famous 4s, according to some people, Johnny Depp, Billie Eilish, and I just saw an interview recently with Billie Eilish, very, very much 4-ish. Martha Graham, Prince, Bob Dylan, Amy Winehouse, Miles Davis, Rihanna, Kurt Cobain, Anne Frank, Edgar Allan Poe, Rapunzel, and Luna Lovegood of Harry Potter fame. So what does any of this have to do with transformation or Unitarian Universalism? First, the rest of the story of Maxie.
Part 2. On Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock, the 3 shades on Maxie's front windows and the one on her back window remained down. At 7:10, the large orange cat was still asleep at the foot of Maxie's bed. And at 7:30, there were no sweet warbling sounds. That morning, no one heard the sounds of Maxie's leather slippers on the stairs. Her tea kettle was filled with empty silence. At 9 o'clock, the mailman came with the Daily Mail. He had a seed catalog for Maxie, and he waited for her to come down the stairs. Since she didn't come, and this was most unusual, he decided to deliver the catalog to her door. Oh, remember that? No. He climbed the 4 flights of stairs. He knocked and waited. There was no sign of Maxie. At 9:03, Mr. Turkle, who lived on the 3rd floor, came hurrying up the stairs. At 9:05, Mr. and Mrs. Morehouse got there from across the street. At 9:07, Mrs. Trueheart came over from next door. Susie Smith came up at 9:10 with her twin brothers. 5 members of the family on the 2nd floor made it up by 9:13. Then came Arthur, the superintendent. By 9:17, there were 17 people, 3 dogs, and 2 cats, all waiting for Maxie to open the door. And when she didn't, they all went in. They found Maxie in bed. More people came up the stairs, and someone called a doctor. By the time he got there, there were 42 grown-ups and 11 children in Maxie's small living room. When the doctor came out of Maxie's bedroom, he shook his head sadly. "Maxie isn't really sick," he said. "She's lonely. She doesn't feel loved. She doesn't feel that anyone needs her." No one said anything for a minute. Then, suddenly, Mrs. Trueheart got up and walked right past the doctor and into the bedroom. "Maxie," she shouted angrily, "you let me down. You and that warbling bird let me down. Every morning, I wake up when I hear that bird. Then it's my job to wake my husband. He has the morning shift at the corner diner and he's still asleep. Why, there must be at least 75 people at that diner right now waiting for their breakfasts. They'll all have to go to work on empty stomachs, all because of you and that yellow bird. That's one way to show some love. Everyone else crowded into the bedroom. Maxie sat up in bed and listened to what they had to say. I couldn't go to school this morning, Susie Smith said. I missed my bus because I didn't hear your tea kettle whistle. The school bus never came this morning, said Mr. Turkle, who drove the bus. I didn't wake up in time. I never heard Sarah Sharp's footsteps on my ceiling. Sarah Sharp was a nurse who lived just above Mr. Turkle. There were a lot of people waiting for her right now at the hospital. She always got up when she heard Maxie's door squeak. Mr. and Mrs. Morehouse both had very important jobs, but they missed their train that morning. Their alarm clock was Maxie's window shade. Arthur said he hadn't swept the front steps that morning. He overslept because Maxie didn't ring his bell. He hoped no one would complain. They all talked about it and decided that there must be about 400 people who needed Maxie, or who needed someone else who needed Maxie every morning. Maxie smiled. She got out of bed and made a pot of tea. In fact, she made 5 pots of tea. Each time the kettle whistled, dogs howled, cats whined, and babies bawled. Maxie listened and thought about how many people were being touched by these sounds, her sounds. By 9:45 that morning, Maxie had served tea to everybody, and she was so pleased.
As soon as we talked about that concept of not mattering, Beth remembered this story. Thank you, Beth. And the artist was really delighted for us to use it. So thanks for reaching out. Here's a reminder that when we're looking at these aspects of personality and giving them numbers and names and referring to people as those things, it's not to put us in a box or limit us, but to help us see the various boxes we're already in and the limits we already place on ourselves, to help us see the patterns, the behaviors, those reactions to which we and others revert most readily, especially when we're worried, stressed, frightened, not at our best. And so in seeing these aspects, to give ourselves a chance to choose differently, not just be driven by what we can't see. Plus, it's a chance to help us gain some understanding and some compassion for those around us who actually operate differently than we do, knowing that we have all these pieces in us, just to different degrees. So the pain of feeling insignificant and not understood, and so not having an identity that's been affirmed, that's too painful to feel for very long. And so the four in us tries to put together an identity that we can affirm ourselves, made out of the rest of our feelings, which means in this case that our feelings then become our identity. Right? If we've built our identity out of our feelings, then our feelings are our identity. Thus, the more dramatic and temperamental personalities of fours often. And it becomes especially difficult then to let go of feelings from the past, because who would we be without them? They've been us for so long. But there are problems with believing that we are our feelings. I don't know about you, but my feelings do not hold still. They are like ocean waves, or like the weather in Michigan, or sometimes here. It might be blue sky and sunshine one moment, and dense light-blocking clouds, gale force winds driving stinging sand, and any number of combinations of precipitation 15 minutes later. Or vice versa. Feelings are always shifting, but it's hard to create a stable and reliable identity out of something that's always changing. And so in order to have a more stable sense of self, the four in us chooses which feelings to identify with and cultivate, and then rejects the others, the feelings that don't fit that. So that's why fours can become really deeply identified with their sadness and their melancholy, often steeped in it very stably, right? Maintaining it. Although there are certain fours who maintain a sunny upbeatness with an equal amount of tenacity. It's the chosen feelings that become who they believe they are. And so everything that doesn't fit that has to be pushed away or ignored so it won't interfere. Don Riso and Ross Hudson teach that it's like working with a kaleidoscope. These are actually from this kaleidoscope. Same pieces, same kaleidoscope, very different patterns. And so it's like we take all these patterns, all these possibilities. It's like taking a snapshot of one of them, framing it, putting it on the wall in a prominent location, and believing that that's the kaleidoscope, right? We pick one of the possibilities and say, okay, that's who we are. So the spiritual truth underneath all of this, for all of us, is that we are inherently, humanly, divinely, amazingly kaleidoscopic, not static. Our true nature, really our constant nature, is always changing. It's always transforming. It's kaleidoscopic. We are a flow of experiences more rich and more beautiful than we could ever make up or imagine. The personality patterns of all these types we're talking about are describing various ways we are driven to take a snapshot of something, frame it, hang it in a prominent location, and then mistake it for who we are, each in our own way, right? These are the 9 pictures we put on the wall, each in our own way. But like Alice in Beth's Welcome, who when asked, "Who are you?" replied, "I hardly know just at present. At least I knew who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then." I've named before that the lifelong spiritual journey is not about becoming something more or something better or something else. The spiritual journey is a journey of self-acceptance. It's a journey of accepting who we are, but not accepting that singular, static, unchanging picture of ourselves. It's accepting the more challenging and radical acceptance, really, of a continually transforming, never final, multifaceted, kaleidoscopic self. The transformation that comes with each move we make toward that kind of self-acceptance, that opens us up to deeper contact with everything, with one another, with all that is, with the divine, some of us would say, and makes our presence transformative in the world just by being who we are. That is a novel thing, right? That move toward that kind of self-acceptance. Now, both our parent traditions swam against the prevailing currents of their time and tried to parent differently than their parents did. The Universalists rejected the teaching they inherited that we are inherently flawed, inherently deficient, and tried instead to mirror back to people their own beauty, their own goodness. The Unitarians too rejected the teaching that we are inherently flawed, and they also rejected the notion that anything is static and unchanging, even God, let alone human beings, and tried to cultivate among people an openness to that kaleidoscopic kind of truth of existence, always in motion, even with the same pieces. And here we are, stewards of these two merged traditions, swimming still against the currents our ancestors resisted, the currents yet taught and promoted in more narrow versions of Christianity, including among the proponents of Christian nationalism, working hard to make their way the way of the land. And here we are, given our chance to mirror people's goodness back to them, including each other's. Here we are, given our chance to recognize and speak to and live from the ever-changing, ever-transforming nature of everything, including ourselves and each other. And here we are, therefore, given a chance to become ourselves good ancestors in an ever-changing world. So may we be whatever combination of Enneagram numbers we are or aren't. So may we be.
Each week we pass baskets to collect an offering, which helps to fund the work of our UUCM community. We then share 25% of everything placed in the baskets and 100% of everything that's placed into the envelopes in the baskets with a local nonprofit organization whose values align with ours. This month, we'll be sharing with Interfaith Food Ministry, who are working to reduce food insecurity in Western Nevada County. And here to speak with us on behalf of this longtime community partner is Victoria Lindsay, the Marketing and Community Manager for IFM. Welcome, Victoria.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. As a 4, I feel very seen today. If you're not familiar with Interfaith Food Ministry, what we're trying to do in our community is that no one needs to feel the hurt of hunger. We provide wholesome supplemental groceries to our Nevada County residents in need. We are located right behind the Beam Center off of Henderson Street. People are allowed to come every 2 weeks, and we have distribution 4 days a week. We serve everyone, just like here. Everyone is welcome at IFM. In order to receive assistance from us, all we need to see is a photo ID and your proof of Nevada County residency. To give you an idea of what we're dealing with at IFM is we're seeing unprecedented new clients come in. We're seeing a lot of past clients that may have gotten on their feet that didn't necessarily need help with their groceries coming back. So last year, we did 97,000 visits, which is up about 6% from the year before and a whopping 61% over 2021. So the need is really increasing. So anything that you can do to support us today is really great. If you're unable to provide a donation in the form of money, we have other easy ways to support us. Please consider giving us your clean used grocery bags, both plastic and paper. That's an easy way to support us, as well as your egg cartons. So yeah, just everyone here in Nevada County should not feel the hurt of hunger, and we're here to help our community as best we can in these times. How many of us have been to the grocery store recently and have been shocked at how much groceries cost? Right? It's really hard out there. It costs a lot to struggle. And so our mission, our goal is to help those that are struggling, get a nice, wholesome, nutritious meal on their tables with their loved ones. So if you have any questions, please feel free to find me after the service. But thank you so much for your time today and for having me. This has been very lovely. So thank you so much.
Your giving is vital to our ability to sustain the work of our community. As the greeters pass the baskets around the room, the screen will show other ways to give. Thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. We dedicate these offerings to the manifestation of a world where both physical and spiritual hunger is satisfied by the generous sharing of resources. And thank you so much to so many people for the kids connection, for the refreshments, greeters, Linda Siska for the setting here, Eileen as chat host, and for reading the really important land acknowledgement. We have a stellar AV team, Paul and Andy. Gabrielle, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful to have you here. And Chuck, almost live and in person, but on the video. Thank you very much. And Reverend Kevin, thank you again, as always, for a very stimulating sermon that I'm going to be chewing on for a while. I appreciate that. Oh, my pleasure. Hey, we have a road to clean up. Not this time because of the weather, but we've got an adopted road that we do. And so, well, that we're going to do. So can't wait. So there's that. Today, right after church, we have the UU 101. It's open to anyone who's interested, including people who think they know what UU is all about. Humanism group meets on Wednesday. Let's see what else. Well, okay, yeah, so humanism. Oh, singing meditation. Oh, it's the best day of the month, the first Thursdays. Come, it's in the evening. Nisanan Homeland Return, the facts and the fictions. Lots of people have questions. There's a lot of misinformation. So Saturday at 3:30, our own Frank Lawrence, who's a tribal lawyer or attorney, is going to be hosting and answering questions about this really important and timely thing that's happening. There's the word. Circle Suppers. We're looking for hosts. So where's Lori? See Lori. She's invisible right now, but she's there and she needs hosts. And it's the potluck that you can host in your home or at church. And it's a really fun way to get to know each other, fellowship and good food. And Lori would like to talk to you if you're interested in hosting that. As always, our website just gets better and better with so much information, and it's really easy to navigate. So take a look at it and spend some time with our website. And with that, yeah.
Yes, Beth, thank you very much. Very much. So I invite us to rise in body or in spirit and to sing this final song, yes, of exactly all that's flowing inside of us in a way that never holds still.
And it's
We do not need to be already perfect or even halfway to belong in this circle where grace meets us where we are, but does not leave us as it found us, where love resides in each of us, yet is somehow more than all, where life still pulses and rages and heals and transforms, creating us and this day anew once again. Remembering this, we offer these good words, this benediction to each other. Together, let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. If you're here in the building, please join us for refreshments and then maybe UU 101. Everyone, will see you next week for Stretch, Moisturize, Plan, and Joy. Starting to celebrate this congregation's 30 years. We'll see you next Sunday.